The grand assembly hall stretched so far that its walls disappeared into darkness. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood in the center of a circular platform, alone under harsh white lights. Above him, rising in massive tiers that seemed to touch the ceiling kilometers overhead, sat representatives from 12,000 species. Their eyes, sensors, and perception organs all focused on him with the weight of judgment. The High Chancellor of the Galactic Council loomed on his elevated throne, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber floor. His voice boomed through translation devices that made every species understand his words in their own way. Ambassador Webb of Earth, you stand accused of deception. Your planet claims Death World classification. Yet our investigation shows a temperate world with stable conditions. We believe humanity has lied to gain unfair advantages in galactic society. Marcus looked up at the thousands of alien faces watching him. Some showed curiosity. Others showed anger. Many showed the smug satisfaction of those who believe they have caught someone in a lie. Behind the Chancellor, holographic screens displayed Earth as seen from space. Blue oceans, green countenance, white clouds drifting peacefully. To anyone watching, it looked like paradise. We have evidence, the Chancellor continued. 23 students from our most prestigious academy volunteered to visit Earth for cultural exchange. They have returned. They will testify about the true nature of your world. A side door opened. 23 young aliens entered the chamber, walking slowly toward the witness platform. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some walked on legs. Others floated. A few rolled or slithered. But they all shared one thing. Despite being physically healthy, they all looked terrified. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. High Chancellor, I welcome their testimony. Please, let them speak. The lead student stepped forward. Her name was Vix, and her scaled skin shimmered under the lights. When she spoke, her voice trembled. Honored Council, when we arrived on Earth 6 cycles ago, we believed what many of you believe now. That Death World classification was just human exaggeration. 6 cycles earlier, a transport ship called Unity descended through Earth's atmosphere. Inside, 23 of the galaxy's brightest students prepared for landing. They had been chosen from thousands of applicants for this honor. The first official academic exchange with the newest member of galactic civilization, humanity. Vix pressed her face against the viewing port, watching Earth grow larger. It looks so peaceful, she said to Torth, who stood beside her. Torth was made of living crystal, and he refracted light when he moved. His species had colonized 40 systems and considered themselves experts on planetary assessment. The data confirms it, Torth said, reviewing his scanner. Atmospheric oxygen at 21%. Gravity only point to above galactic standard. Single stable star. No extreme radiation. I believe the humans have been playing up their world's dangers to seem more impressive. Krev rumbled agreement from behind them. He stood twice as tall as Vix on his 4 thick legs, and his forearms held recording equipment. My people will be interested to see if the famous Earth ferocity is real or just good storytelling. The ship landed outside a city called Denver. The students filed out into a specially constructed receiving area. Human technicians had built individual life support stations for each species. The students found this excessive but polite. A human woman waited for them at the main entrance. She looked old by human standards, with gray streaks in her dark hair and lines around her eyes. She wore simple clothing and carried a data pad. Welcome to Earth, she said warmly. My name is Dr. Emma Frost. I will be your coordinator during your stay. Before we begin the campus tour, everyone needs to check their medical interface settings. The students exchanged knowing glances. Here it comes, they thought. The dramatic warnings about how dangerous everything is. They had heard stories about how humans love to make their world sound terrifying. But as Dr. Frost walked them through the protocols, something felt wrong. The safety requirements were far more extensive than expected. The medical monitoring systems were set to alert at the smallest biological changes. The emergency procedures were detailed and numerous. These seem excessive, Vix said carefully, not wanting to be rude. My species has visited hundreds of worlds without such measures. Dr. Frost looked at her with kind but serious eyes. I understand. But Earth is different. Please trust me on this. That evening, the students gathered in their dormitory common room. Each had their own quarters designed specifically for their biology. The building itself was a marvel of engineering, with different atmospheric zones, gravity adjustments, and temperature controls all in one structure. Through the large windows, they watched their first Earth sunset. Orange and red painted the sky in colors that were actually quite beautiful. The students began to relax. Perhaps Earth would not be so bad after all. Then Vix noticed something that made her blood freeze. A human jogged past the building outside. Just a regular person out for exercise. They wore only thin fabric covering their body. No environmental suit. No breathing apparatus. No protective gear at all. Look, she whispered, pointing. The others turned to see the human was breathing Earth's air directly. Air that contained enough oxygen to be toxic to most species over time. Air filled with microorganisms. Air that was, by galactic standards, a corrosive substance. The oxygen concentration, Torth said slowly, recalibrating his sensors for the third time. I thought my readings were wrong, but they are not. 21% oxygen. Humans breathe this naturally. They evolved in it. Krev pointed one of his arms at the window. And the gravity. I have been feeling heavier since we landed. Not much, but constantly. This 0.2 increase does not sound like much in data. But feeling it on your body every moment, every movement requiring more effort, it adds up. Another student, a floating gas being named Kill, pulsed with concern. Did anyone else notice the atmospheric pressure readings? We are essentially living in a slightly pressurized oxidizer environment. One spark in the wrong place and do not think about it, Vix interrupted. The humans have safety protocols. They must, or they would not have survived. The next morning, Dr. Frost took them to their first class, Basic Earth Biology. The professor was a cheerful human man named Dr. James Rivera. He smiled at them as they filed into the classroom. Welcome, everyone. Today, we start with something simple, a gentle introduction to Earth's ecosystem. He held up a plant in a pot. It had green leaves and a single red flower on a stem. This is called a rose. Very common on Earth. Notice anything interesting? The students looked at it politely. It seemed like a pleasant plant. Pretty even, Kill extended a tendril to touch the flower. Immediately, they jerked back with a sound of pain. The tendril was bleeding from multiple small punctures. Dr. Rivera quickly provided a medical patch. Ah, yes, the thorns. Defense mechanism. Most earth plants have some form of protection. This one is actually quite mild. Mild. The students stared at the innocent-looking flower with new horror. On their worlds, plants were passive organisms. They grew in soil, absorbed sunlight, and caused no harm. The concept of a plant that stabs you was alien and disturbing. Plants here must defend themselves, Dr. Rivera explained. From insects that eat them, from animals that eat them, from other plants competing for space. Earth's ecosystem is, well, competitive. That afternoon brought their first emergency. Alarms blared throughout the dormitory. Red lights flashed. Automated voices gave instructions in multiple languages. Dr. Frost appeared in the common room within seconds. Her face was serious, but calm. Everyone to your secured rooms. Now, this is not a drill. What is happening? Vix demanded. Feeling panic rise in her chest, Dr. Frost glanced toward the windows where dark clouds had gathered with impossible speed. The sky had turned green. Weather event. Tornado warning. We are on the edge of the potential impact zone. The students rushed to their rooms as the first winds hit. Through reinforced glass, they watched in frozen terror as the sky itself seemed to attack the planet. Trees bent until their tops touched the ground. Debris flew through the air like missiles. Rain fell so hard it sounded like weapons fire. And somewhere in the chaos, Vix saw them. Human emergency workers running toward the storm in their thin protective gear, ready to help anyone in need. Krev recorded everything with shaking hands. His forearms could barely hold the equipment steady. His homeworld had weather, of course. Gentle rain. Mild breezes. Nothing like this. Nothing that tried to tear buildings apart just because it felt like it. As the storm raged outside, students huddled in their rooms and understood for the first time that they had made a terrible mistake. Earth was not exaggerating. If anything, the data had not prepared them for the reality. This planet was trying to kill them. And they had 3 more months to survive. The council chamber fell silent as Vix continued her testimony. Her scales had lost some of their shimmer since returning from Earth, and her voice carried weight that had not been there before. The tornado was just the beginning, she said. We thought it was a rare disaster. Something that happened once in a lifetime. The humans told us tornadoes hit that region dozens of times each year. They called it tornado season, as if planetary violence could be scheduled. Encelar leaned forward on his throne. Continue. 3 weeks after the storm, Dr. Frost told us we were ready for field studies. She said she would give us a mild introduction to Earth's ecosystem. We believed we understood what that meant. We were wrong about everything. 3 weeks after the tornado, the students boarded a human transport vehicle. They called it a bus. It moved on wheels across paved ground, taking them into an area called the Rocky Mountain Biological Preserve. Vix watched through the window as the city disappeared behind them. The landscape changed to forests and mountains. It looked peaceful, beautiful even. Maybe this would be the break they needed from Earth's constant dangers. Their guide was a human named Ranger. Tom? He was tall and moved with casual confidence through the forest paths. He smiled at the students as they gathered around him. Welcome to the preserve, Tom said. A few important rules? Stay on the marked paths at all times. Do not touch anything without asking me first. Do not eat anything you find. Do not approach any animals you see. And if I tell you to move, you move immediately. Understood? The students nodded, feeling their anxiety return. Those were a lot of rules for a peaceful nature walk. Tom led them down a dirt path into the forest. Sunlight filtered through the trees. Birds sang in the branches above. A small stream bubbled nearby. For a few minutes, the students relaxed. Then Tom stopped beside a plant with 3 shiny leaves. This is poison ivy. See how it grows along the ground and up trees? Never touch it. Contact with your skin causes intense chemical burns and allergic reactions that can last for weeks. He moved to another plant. These mushrooms are beautiful, right? Eating one will shut down your liver within hours. Extremely toxic. Then he pointed to a tree. The bark of this species contains compounds that cause paralysis if ingested. For the next hour, Tom continued his tour of horrors. Every few steps brought a new danger. Insects that injected venom when they bit you. Spiders whose venom caused flesh to die and rot. Berries that looked delicious but contained neurotoxins. Plants that caused blindness if their sap touched your eyes. Flowers that released toxic pollen. This is a mild zone, Tom added cheerfully. We specifically chose an area without the major predators. No bears, no mountain lions, no wolves. And we avoided the rattlesnake dens entirely. Vix felt her translation device struggle to keep up with all the names of dangerous creatures. On her homeworld, the entire planet had maybe 3 dangerous species. Here, the dangerous species were the entire ecosystem. Torth's crystalline body flickered with distress. Ranger Tom, on my world, we have nature preserves to protect endangered species and provide peaceful recreation. Why does Earth have preserves filled with things trying to kill visitors? Tom looked genuinely confused by the question. These are not trying to kill you specifically. They are just trying to survive. On Earth, if something is not defended, something else will eat it or destroy it. That is how ecosystems work here. Everything competes. Everything has weapons, whether chemical, physical, or biological. That evening, back at the university, the students attended a lecture on microbiology. Dr. Rivera displayed holographic images of microscopic organisms on a large screen. The students watched with growing horror as he explained Earth's invisible threats. Earth hosts approximately 1 trillion species of microorganisms, Dr. Rivera said. Most are harmless to humans. Many are actually beneficial. But a significant percentage are what we call pathogens, disease-causing organisms that invade living cells. The hologram zoomed in on a bacterium attacking a human cell. The bacterium attached itself, injected its genetic material, and began reproducing inside the cell. The cell burst apart, releasing thousands more bacteria. Several students made distressed sounds. On most galactic worlds, microorganisms existed, but were largely passive. They drifted in the environment, broke down dead matter, and caused no harm. The concept of microscopic predators was nightmare fuel. Your bodies are fighting these invaders right now, Dr. Rivera continued. As I speak, your immune systems are identifying and destroying foreign organisms. Every breath you take brings new microbes into your body. Every surface you touch transfers millions of bacteria. Life on Earth exists in constant biological warfare at the cellular level. Torth's structure flickered rapidly. Dr. Rivera, you mean we are currently being invaded? Well, your medical interfaces are helping, but yes. Your bodies are fighting battles you cannot see or feel. Welcome to Earth. Population, you plus several trillion microorganisms that view you as either food or territory. The next day brought the field trip's climax. Ranger Tom took them to an observation bunker overlooking a wide meadow. The structure was reinforced concrete with narrow viewing windows. It felt more like a military position than an educational facility. I want you to understand Earth's food chain, Tom said. Watch the meadow carefully. They waited in silence. After a few minutes, animals emerged from the tree line. They walked on 4 legs with brown fur and moved gracefully through the grass. They had large eyes and seemed gentle. Those are deer, Tom explained. Herbivores. They eat plants exclusively. The students relaxed slightly. Finally, peaceful creatures. Then the bushes at the meadow's edge exploded with motion. A large tan animal burst out, moving with terrifying speed. It covered the distance to the deer in seconds. The impact was brutal. The deer struggled briefly before falling still. Several students triggered their emergency medical monitors from the shock. The violence had been so fast, so efficient, so final. That was a mountain lion, Tom said calmly, as if he had just shown them a flower. Apex predator, in this region, it will feed on that deer for several days. The other humans in the bunker took notes. One filmed the scene. They had seen this before. Many times, this casual violence was normal to them. On Earth, Tom continued, nearly every organism is predator, prey, or both. The deer you saw? Herbivores, yes. But they will stomp a snake to death if threatened. The mountain lion. Apex predator here, but in other regions, bears or wolf packs can kill them. He gestured toward the meadow where the mountain lion was now feeding. Everything eats everything else. Energy transfers through consumption of living or recently living organisms. That is how our entire ecosystem functions. Life feeds on life, kill-pulsed with distress. On my world, we evolved beyond such barbarity. Our nutrition comes from synthesized compounds. We do not murder our food. Tom's expression softened. I understand this is disturbing, but this is death world biology. Life here does not just compete. It wages war. Every species on Earth, including humans, descends from billions of years of survivors who won their battles. If they had not been good at fighting, they would not have passed on their genes. That night, Vix could not sleep. She accessed Earth's information networks, searching for context to help her understand what she had witnessed. What she found made everything worse. Earth had experienced 5 major mass extinction events. Over 99% of all species that ever lived on this planet were dead, wiped out by volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, climate shifts, and other catastrophes. Yet life had persisted. It adapted. It evolved into new forms that were even more resilient. Humans had evolved during one of the harshest periods, the Ice Age. While they were physically weaker than many predators, they compensated with intelligence and something else. endurance. The information described humans as persistence predators. They did not need to be fastest or strongest. They just needed to keep coming. They could track prey for days. They could survive injuries that killed most species. Their bodies expected damage and had systems to repair it. As Vix read deeper into Earth's biological history, an alarm sounded in the dormitory. Medical emergency. She rushed to the common area where several students had gathered. Dr. Frost was already there with a medical team. One of the students, a being named Pell, whose species had colonized dozens of worlds, lay unconscious on a floating stretcher. What happened? Vix asked. Dr. Frost checked the medical readouts. Pell's system cannot handle the cumulative stress. The gravity, the oxygen, the atmospheric pressure, the constant exposure to Earth's microorganisms. It is all too much. We are evacuating Pell immediately. They watched as the medical team carried Pell toward the landing pad where a ship waited. The student had survived 3 weeks. Just 3 weeks on Earth had broken someone from a highly adaptive species. Dr. Frost turned to address the remaining students. Her expression was more serious than they had ever seen. I need you all to understand something. Pell was not weak. Pell's species has colonized 37 worlds successfully. They are considered one of the most adaptable species in the galaxy. But Earth is not a world that life adapts to. Earth is a world that life adapts against. And if you cannot fight back, it will break you. The students watched Pell's ship rise into the night sky and disappear among the stars. For the first time, they understood the truth. They were not on a study program. They were in a war zone. And they had 2 more months to survive. In the council chamber, Ambassador Marcus Webb stood with his hands clasped behind his back as Krev stepped forward to testify. The massive 4-armed aliens recording equipment projected holographic scenes that made the assembled. Representatives leaned forward in their seats. High Chancellor Krev began. I nay. D, to show you what I witnessed in month 2 of the program. The humans called it physical culture. We called it madness. The hologram showed humans deliberately running into each other at high speed, fighting over a ball, blood visible on several faces. None of them stopped playing. This is recreation, Krev said quietly. They injure themselves for entertainment. 2 months into the program, the student count had dropped from 23 to 17. 6 evacuated. Those who remained had formed a bond built on shared trauma and growing respect for humanity's insanity. Dr. Frost announced their next educational phase. You will observe human physical culture. We are visiting a university campus to see typical recreational activities. The students felt cautious hope. Maybe this would be calmer than the biological horrors they had witnessed. They should have known better. The sports complex was enormous. A building larger than some space stations, dedicated entirely to physical activities. The students split up to observe different areas. Each discovered new dimensions of human madness. Krev entered a field where humans played something called rugby. He watched in disbelief as they deliberately collided with each other at full speed, fighting to control an oval-shaped ball. They wore minimal protective gear. Just thin padding and mouth guards. A player went down hard. Blood streamed from his nose. The medical team checked him quickly. He waved them off and returned to the game. Krev filmed everything, his vocoder struggling to translate his bewilderment. This is recreation? They damaged themselves voluntarily. He approached one of the players during a break, a young woman with a split lip and forming bruises. Why do you do this? He asked. She grinned despite her injuries. It is fun. Tests your strength and skill. Builds team unity. She wiped blood from her mouth casually. Besides, you should see ice hockey. We do that on frozen water while wearing knives on our feet. In another area, Vix observed humans climbing a vertical wall using only their hands and feet. They gripped tiny holds barely large enough for their fingers. One climber fell. Her safety rope caught her, and she immediately climbed back to try again. Vix counted 17 failed attempts before the humans succeeded. The determination was frightening. Most species would have given up after 2 or 3 failures. This human just kept trying, as if failure was not a reason to stop, but merely information about what to change. Torth found something that shook him to his crystalline core. A room filled with heavy metal objects. Humans were lifting these weights, placing them on their backs and shoulders, forcing their bodies to strain against resistance. "This is self-harm," Torth protested to a human instructor. A muscular woman named Coach Davis. "This is adaptation," Davis corrected. "Human muscles respond to stress by becoming stronger. We damage them in controlled ways, and they rebuild larger and more powerful. It is called progressive overload. We become stronger through controlled destruction." "But why would evolution create such a system?" Torth asked. Davis smiled. "Because on Earth, if you are not getting stronger, something else is. We evolved in an environment where constant improvement was necessary for survival. Our bodies expect resistance. They expect damage. They expect challenges. When we provide those things safely, we trigger the same adaptation responses that kept our ancestors alive." The next day brought a field trip to a hospital. Dr. Frost wanted the students to understand human medicine. What they discovered was equally inspiring and terrifying. The trauma center was their first stop. Dr. Patricia, the head of emergency medicine, walked them through case studies on holographic displays. This patient arrived with a broken thigh bone, punctured lung, and severe head trauma from a vehicle accident. Dr. Patricia explained, showing detailed scans. "We stabilized her, repaired the damage, and she walked out 3 weeks later. Full recovery expected in 6 months." The students stared at injuries that would be death sentences for most species. But humans had developed medical procedures specifically designed for death-world damage. They had to. Their planet broke them regularly, so they became experts at repairs. "And this patient survived a heart attack," Dr. Patricia continued. "We cleared the blocked vessels and placed a device called a stent to keep them open. The heart muscle that died will form scar tissue, but the remaining muscle adapts to handle the workload. You can repair a heart, the organ that keeps you alive, repair, replace, reroute blood flow, even transplant from another human if needed. The heart is a pump, a sophisticated one, but ultimately fixable. We have become very good at cardiac medicine because heart disease is common on Earth." The tour continued. They learned about chemotherapy, where humans poisoned their entire body to kill cancer cells, betting their natural resilience would let them survive what killed the disease. They learned about organ transplants, where failing organs were replaced with healthy ones from donors. They learned about prosthetic limbs, mechanical replacements for lost body parts. "We have patients living with artificial hearts while waiting for transplants," Dr. Patricia said. "Humans who have survived with mechanical pumps keeping them alive for months or even years." The students struggled to process this. On their worlds, major organ failure meant death. Earth medicine was built on the assumption that humans could be broken and rebuilt multiple times. Later that day, the students attended required psychological evaluations. Dr. Marcus, the staff psychologist, met with each one individually. Vix's session became a turning point in her understanding. "How are you coping?" Dr. Marcus asked gently. "I am not," Vix admitted. "None of us are. Your world is hostile. The weather attacks. The biology attacks. The gravity never stops pulling. How do humans endure this without constant psychological breakdown?" Dr. Marcus rolled up his sleeve, revealing a long scar along his forearm. "Rock climbing accident when I was 19. 40 stitches. And this," he pointed to another scar on his hand, "bicycle crash at 12. This one," he showed a scar on his knee. "Football injury at 16. Surgery scar here from an infected appendix at 25. He covered his arms again. "Every human you meet carries scars, Vix, visible or invisible. Injuries, illnesses, accidents, losses, we call it living. On Earth, damage is not exceptional. It is inevitable. So we develop psychological resilience alongside physical resilience. We have concepts like post-traumatic growth," he continued. "The idea that surviving hardship can make you stronger, more capable. We practice exposure therapy, where controlled encounters with fears help overcome them. We value persistence, determination, and grit. Because if we did not develop these psychological tools, Earth would have destroyed us as a species millions of years ago. Vix felt tears forming. On her world, serious injury was rare. Trauma was unusual. Hardship was exceptional. Here, it was life. And humans had built entire psychological frameworks around accepting, processing, and growing from constant adversity. We do not just survive Earth, Dr. Marcus said. We refuse to let it define us. Yes, our world is harsh. Yes, it damages us. But we choose what that damage creates. Scars can be reminders of survival. Pain can teach us compassion. Hardship can forge determination. Earth gave us the challenges. We chose what to build from them. That evening, Vix walked through the campus as sunset painted the sky in brilliant colors. She heard commotion and saw humans gathering outside, pointing upward and talking excitedly. "What is happening?" she asked a passing student. "Volcanic eruption in Iceland," the human said cheerfully. "The ash in the upper atmosphere is creating an amazing light show. Best sunset in months." Vix stared in disbelief. A volcano had erupted. A mountain had literally exploded. And humans were celebrating the pretty colors it created. But then she noticed something else. The other alien students who had survived this far were also watching the sky. Krev, Torth, Kill, and the others. And despite their fear, despite their constant stress, they were finding it beautiful too. They were adapting. Not to Earth's environment, their life support systems still handled that. But to Earth's mindset, the human ability to find wonder in a world that threatened them. To appreciate beauty in chaos, to see the sunset even though their star could kill them with radiation. That night, Vix began recording detailed notes. Not for the Council's inquiry, though she knew that was coming. For herself. Because when she returned home, no one would believe what she had experienced. How could they? They had never lived on a death world, and more importantly, they had never lived with deathworlders. Species who turned planetary hostility into strength. Who built civilization not despite the darkness, but by learning to carry light through it. She looked at her notes and realized something profound. Earth had not just made humans tough, it had made them unstoppable. Because stopping meant dying. And humans had spent millions of years deciding that death was not acceptable. Outside her window, humans continued their evening activities, jogging, cycling, playing sports, living their lives as if the ground beneath them was not a death trap, as if the air was not filled with invisible threats, as if their entire existence was not a constant battle against planetary violence. They made it look easy. That was perhaps the most terrifying thing of all. The council chamber hummed with whispered conversations as Kill floated to the testimony platform, the gaseous being pulsed with colors T. Had their species used for emotional expression? Right now, those colors showed deep respect mixed with lingering fear. "Hi, Chancellor. The humans asked us to shadow professionals in our fields of study. They said it was the program's final educational component. We thought we understood what that meant. We had already seen Earth's violence, its biology, its weather. What more could they show us?" Kill's colors shifted to something dark. We were fools. We had only seen Earth's environment. We had not yet seen what Earth's environment created. We had not seen humans pushed to their limits. 3.5 months into the program, 12 students remained. More than half had been evacuated for medical or psychological reasons. Those who survived had developed immunity to the constant fear. Or perhaps they had simply exhausted their capacity for terror. Dr. Frost gathered them in the common room. "For your final month, each of you will shadow a human professional in your field of study. This is your chance to see how Death World experience applies to actual careers." The students received their assignments. Krev would shadow a firefighting crew. Kill would work with disaster relief doctors. Torth would observe spacecraft engineers. Each student got placed with humans who worked in challenging fields. They did not realize they were about to witness humanity's true nature. Krev's assignment took him to Los Angeles. Captain Jennifer and her firefighting crew worked out of a station in a dense urban area. Krev expected to observe fire suppression technology, perhaps learn about their equipment. The first alarm came at 2 in the morning. A warehouse fire. The crew mobilized in under 2 minutes. Krev, protected in his environmental suit with extra safety overrides, followed them to the scene. Nothing prepared him for what he witnessed. The warehouse was an inferno. His sensors recorded temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees. Toxic smoke filled the air. The structure was collapsing. Every logical response said to establish a perimeter and let it burn. The building was lost. Accepted. Captain Jennifer received a report through her radio. Possible person trapped inside. She did not hesitate. Team 2, we are going in. Standard search pattern. 12-minute time limit. Krev watched through thermal imaging as humans ran into the fire. They wore protective gear. Yes, but gear that only delayed the inevitable. They could survive in there maybe 20 minutes before the heat and smoke overwhelmed them. They found the trapped person. A homeless man who had sought shelter in the warehouse. 2 firefighters shielded him with their own bodies as they evacuated. One suffered burns on her arms. The structure collapsed 30 seconds after they cleared the doorway. Krev filmed everything with shaking hands. Later, he asked Captain Jennifer the question that had been burning in his mind. Why? Why risk death for one person? Your species has 8 billion members. The mathematical value of, we do not do math on human lives, Jennifer interrupted, her voice hard. Every person matters. That is not death world instinct. That is civilization. We are brutal enough to survive Earth, but we chose to be better than just survivors. She looked at Krev with tired eyes. You want to know what makes humans different? It is not that Earth made us tough. Every harsh world does that. It is that we decided toughness should serve compassion. We run into fires because someone needs saving. We do not calculate if they deserve it. We do not weigh their value. We just go. Across the city, Kill worked with Dr. Amara at a disaster response site. An earthquake had devastated a region. The medical conditions were primitive by galactic standards. Limited supplies. Improvised equipment. Overwhelming casualties. Dr. Amara worked for 36 hours without stopping. Kill watched as she performed surgery with inadequate anesthesia. Stitched wounds with whatever materials were available. Made impossible choices about who could be saved with limited resources. A child arrived. Crushed leg. Massive blood loss. Going into shock? The injury was catastrophic. On most worlds, this would be a tragic but accepted loss. Dr. Amara fought for 3 hours to save her. Blood transfusions. Emergency amputation. Constant monitoring. The child lived. The injury will change her life, Dr. Amara admitted later, sitting in exhausted silence beside Kill. Will need prosthetics. Years of therapy. Psychological support. But she will live. She will adapt. Humans are very good at adapting. At what cost? Keel asked. You barely saved her. The resources you used could have what? Dr. Amara's voice was sharp. Saved someone less injured? That is defeatist thinking. On Earth, we face impossible odds every single day. Our planet is an impossible odd. If we accepted defeat when things looked hopeless, we would still be hiding in caves from thunderstorms. She looked at the child sleeping peacefully under sedation. Every life we save is a victory against Earth itself. The planet tries to kill us. We try to save each other. That is humanity. Torth's assignment took him to a space program facility. Commander Robert trained astronauts for missions to other planets. Torth expected this to be familiar territory. His own species had been spacefaring for thousands of years. But human space training was different, Commander. Robert explained the regimen. Years of preparation for missions where a single mistake meant death. They trained underwater to simulate zero gravity. They studied emergency procedures for hundreds of potential disasters. They learned to remain calm when everything went wrong. Space is actually more hospitable than Earth in some ways, Robert said, noticing Torth's confusion. At least space is honest about trying to kill you. It never pretends to be safe. Earth gives us hurricanes, earthquakes, diseases. And then occasionally a beautiful day to make us forget we are always in danger. Space does not lie. Torth observed a training scenario. Simulated catastrophic station failure. The crew had minutes to execute emergency protocols before life support failed. They moved with practiced efficiency. No panic, no wasted motion, problem solving in real time. We do not train for success, Robert explained afterward. We train for failure. Because on Earth, failure is inevitable. Equipment breaks. Plans go wrong. Disasters happen. What matters is what you do next. Do you quit? Or do you solve the problem? He pulled up statistics on a display. These are our mission failures. Apollo 1. Challenger. Columbia. We lost crews. We experienced catastrophic disasters. And we kept going. Because Earth taught us that disaster is not the end. It is just another problem to solve. The students were united to share their experiences. They gathered in the common room late one night, exhausted and changed by what they had witnessed. They do not just survive, Vic said slowly. They refuse to accept defeat even when defeat is logical. They fight impossible odds because giving up is not in their psychology. Every human alive is descended from survivors, Krev added. Not just survivors of Earth's environment. Survivors of impossible situations. Their ancestors should not have lived through the Ice Age, should not have beaten stronger predators, should not have survived diseases and disasters. But they did. And that refusal to quit became part of their species' psychology. Torth's crystalline structure pulsed with understanding. That is why they keep going into space despite the disasters. Why they run into fires? Why they fight for every life? Earth made them expect hopelessness. So they developed the mindset to fight through it anyway. The conversation was interrupted by Dr. Frost entering the room. Her expression was grave. I have news from the Galactic Council. They are accelerating their investigation into Earth's classification. The hearing is being moved up. You are all being recalled for testimony. Silence filled the room. They had known this was coming. The whole program had been designed to gather evidence about Earth's true nature, but Dr. Frost continued. We have intercepted communications. Certain political factions do not actually doubt Earth's dangers. They are afraid of what Earth produces. If humans are this capable, despite coming from a harsh world, or perhaps because of it, what does that say about species from gentle worlds? Vix felt understanding dawn. They are not investigating Earth's classification. They are trying to weaken humanity before you become competition. Dr. Frost nodded. Ambassador Webb is preparing his defense. But data and statistics will not be enough. The Council needs witnesses who understand what makes Earth truly a death world, not the environmental factors. Those are documented. They need witnesses who understand how death world conditions shaped humanity into something unprecedented. She looked at each student. The Council expected you to testify that Earth is safe, that we exaggerate. Are you willing to tell them the truth instead? The students looked at each other. They had been broken down by Earth, traumatized, pushed beyond their limits. Several of their friends had not survived the program. They had every reason to resent this nightmare planet, but they had also witnessed something extraordinary. They had seen humans turn planetary hostility into strength, seen them build civilization not by escaping the darkness, but by learning to carry light through it. Krev stood, his forearms steady. When do we testify? The others rose with him. 12 survivors. 12 witnesses to Earth's true nature. They would return to the Council and tell the truth. Not because they liked Earth, but because truth mattered. And because somewhere along the way, this death world and its death world inhabitants had taught them something their gentle worlds never could. Dee learned what it meant to keep fighting when fighting seemed pointless. What it meant to value life because life was so hard to keep. What it meant to stand up for truth even when it was difficult. Earth had taught them to be stronger than they thought possible, just like it had done for humanity. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council stretched into darkness above, with 12,000 species watching from tiered seats that climbed toward the distant ceiling. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood in the center of the judgment platform. alone under brilliant white lights that made him appear small and vulnerable. Against the massive architecture of galactic power, High Chancellor Velmoth loomed on his elevated throne, his enormous form casting shadows across the chamber. His voice, amplified through translation matrices, filled the space with authority that had shaped galactic policy for centuries. Ambassador Webb, you have heard the preliminary testimonies. Your students have described Earth's hostility. They have documented dangers. They have proven that most galactic citizens cannot survive on your world without extensive support. He paused, letting silence emphasize his next words. But they have also revealed something more disturbing. They have shown that Earth's conditions produce capabilities that challenge the existing galactic order. This council must decide if humanity represents a threat to stability. Murmurs rippled through the assembled representatives. This was the real question. Not whether Earth was dangerous, but whether humans were too dangerous. Marcus remained calm. He had prepared for this moment since Earth first made contact with galactic civilization. High Chancellor, I welcome complete testimony from all witnesses. Let them speak without restriction. The truth will support Earth's position. Velmoth gestured toward the students. Very well. Let the record show that humanity requests full disclosure. Students, you may present your complete findings. Vic stepped forward first. Her scales had regained some of their shimmer, but her eyes carried weight that had not existed before. Earth. She activated holographic displays showing her documented evidence. Honored Council, I will be direct. Earth is not just a death world by environmental standards. It is a death world because it wages constant, relentless war against anything living on its surface. Images appeared above her. The tornado. The rose with thorns. Microscopic predators. Forest filled with poisons. Every moment of existence on Earth is a battle. The atmosphere is corrosive oxidizer. The gravity never stops pulling. The weather attacks without warning. The biology competes violently. Even plants have weapons. She showed medical data. 6 of our 23 companions were evacuated. These were not weak individuals. They were elite students from successful species. Earth broke them through accumulated stress that their bodies could not process. The council members shifted uncomfortably. This supported Death World classification, but Velmoth pressed further. Yet humans thrive there. They build cities. They create art. They pursue recreation in that hostile environment. How do we explain this discrepancy? Vix met his gaze steadily. Because Death World conditions shaped human evolution in ways that Gentle World evolution cannot match. Humans are not tougher than us by choice. They are tougher because anything less tough died. For millions of years, Earth killed the weak, the slow, the unlucky. What remains is a species built for survival. Krev stepped forward next, his forearms gesturing at recordings from his time with firefighters. But survival instinct alone does not explain humanity. I witnessed humans deliberately risk death to save strangers. I watched them run into fire for one person. The hologram showed Captain Jennifer and her crew entering the burning warehouse. These humans knew the danger. They have statistics on casualties. They wear memorial badges for dead colleagues. Yet they went anyway. Not from ignorance. From choice. On my world, we calculate acceptable losses. We perform risk assessment. We make logical decisions about resource allocation. His voice grew stronger. Humans reject that logic. They fight for every life because Earth taught them that life itself is the victory. Surviving another day on a death world is triumph. So they refuse to accept any death as acceptable. The council representatives leaned forward. This was not what they expected to hear. Kill floated to the platform, colors pulsing with intensity. I worked with human medical personnel in disaster zones. I watched Dr. Amara fight for 3 hours to save a child who by all logical assessment should have been triaged as unsavable. Medical imagery appeared. The child survived, with injuries that will change her life permanently. But she lived. And Dr. Amara said something I will never forget. She said that every life saved is a victory against Earth itself, because the planet tries to kill them, and they try to save each other. That is humanity, Kill continued. Earth made them brutal enough to survive, but they chose to use that brutality to protect others. They are warrior healers, fighter builders, survivors who refuse to merely survive. Torth's crystalline form refracted the chamber lights as he spoke. The Council fears human capability. You worry that Death World adaptations make them dangerous? But I studied their space program. I saw their history of disasters and persistence. Images of failed missions appeared. Apollo 1, Challenger, Columbia. They lost crews, experienced catastrophic failures. Any logical species would have abandoned space exploration after such losses. Humans intensified their efforts. They do not see failure as reason to stop. They see it as information about what to improve. This is Death World psychology. On Earth, failure means death unless you learn and adapt. So humans evolved to treat every failure as a lesson rather than an ending. The testimonies continued. Each student added their perspective, building a comprehensive picture not just of Earth's environment, but of how that environment shaped human civilization. The Council began to understand that this was not about data points and atmospheric composition. It was about evolutionary psychology that no amount of statistics could capture. Then High Chancellor Velmuth asked the question that hung over the chamber like a blade. If humans are so shaped by Death World conditions, should this Council fear them? Are we allowing a species of apex predators into galactic society? Silence fell. This was the real issue. Not classification, but trust. Marcus stepped forward. High Chancellor, may I respond? Speak, Ambassador. Marcus gestured, and new holograms appeared throughout the chamber. The students testified to what Earth made us. Allow me to show what we chose to become despite Earth. Images filled the space. Human hospitals, treating aliens for free. Rescue operations and other species disaster zones. Cultural exchange programs. Environmental restoration projects. Scientific collaboration. Yes, Earth made us tough. Made us persistent. Made us capable of violence. But look at what we do with those capabilities. More images appeared. We run into fires to save strangers. We work 36-hour shifts in disaster zones. We train for years to explore space despite knowing we might die. We dedicate our lives to healing, teaching, building, protecting. Marcus looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes and sensors of thousands of species. Earth could have made us monsters. A death world easily produces species that view the universe as extension of hostile environment. We could have become conquerors. We could have treated every species as prey or competition. But we did not. We became builders, scientists, teachers, explorers. We took the brutality. Earth forced on us and pointed it at problems instead of people. We took the violence Earth demanded and channeled it into protecting others. He paused, letting his words settle. You asked if you should fear us. Here is your answer. Earth gave us the capacity for extraordinary violence. We chose to use that capacity for extraordinary compassion. Earth gave us persistence that never quits. We chose to persist in helping rather than conquering. Every human carries the potential for darkness. Earth demanded that, but we also carry the choice to be better than our origins. That is not Death World programming. That is civilization. That is what separates humans from the predators we evolved alongside. Vic stepped forward again without being called. High Chancellor, I must add something. Proceed. When we arrived on Earth, we were the galaxy's elite. Top students from advanced civilizations. We considered ourselves sophisticated, evolved, superior. Her voice grew passionate. Earth humbled us, broke some of us, terrified all of us. But it also revealed an uncomfortable truth. She gestured at the assembled council. Our comfortable worlds made us weak. Not physically, though that is true, weak in more important ways. We do not persist when challenged because we never had to. We do not cooperate instinctively because survival never demanded it. We do not innovate under pressure because we evolved without pressure. Humans are not exaggerating Death World status for advantage. They are stating fact. And the real issue is that Death World evolution produced capabilities that gentle world evolution did not. Earth's hostility became humanity's strength. The Council can reclassify Earth if it wishes. Strip their accommodations. Treat them as standard citizens. But doing so will not make them less capable. It will only prove this Council fears capability more than it values truth. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species agreed loudly. Others protested. Noise built until Velmuth raised his appendages for silence. The Council will deliberate. The wait felt eternal. Ambassador Marcus stood calmly, while the Council leadership conferred in private channels. Finally, Velmuth spoke. The Council has reviewed all testimony and evidence. We find that Earth's death world classification is not only accurate, but understated. The environmental factors are significant. The cumulative effect is extraordinary. The psychological impacts are profound. He paused, his voice carrying new weight. Furthermore, we acknowledge that humanity's adaptations to death world conditions have produced capabilities that make some species uncomfortable. This discomfort is not grounds for reclassification. It is grounds for respect. Earth's death world status is confirmed and expanded. Additional accommodations for human requirements in mixed species environments are approved and ... Velmuth focused on Marcus. We offer formal apology for questioning humanity's integrity. The political motivations behind this investigation have been identified. Those responsible will be sanctioned. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Some species applauded. Others showed concern. But the verdict was final. Marcus bowed slightly. The Council's wisdom honors us. Earth accepts this decision and reaffirms our commitment to galactic cooperation. 3 months later, the 12 students gathered at the Galactic Academy for a reunion. They had been permanently changed by Earth, not just through trauma. Krev had started a documentary series on Death World civilizations that was breaking viewership records. Kill was consulting with galactic hospitals on emergency medicine protocols. Torth was redesigning spacecraft with human-inspired redundancy systems. Vix had become an advocate for controlled hardship education. The controversial idea that students from gentle worlds needed to experience difficulty to develop capability. Earth taught me something crucial, she told her companions. Comfort is luxury, but capability is necessity. The galaxy is vast and often hostile. We need citizens who do not quit when things get hard. Dr. Emma Frost appeared via holographic link. I have good news. The Council approved expansion of the exchange program. We will accept 50 students next cycle. The alumni exchanged glances. Those poor souls have no idea what awaits them, Krev said. Neither did we, Vix replied with something that might have been a smile. That is exactly the point. On the lunar diplomatic station, Ambassador Marcus watched Earth rise over the moon's horizon. Blue and beautiful and deadly. He thought about the trial, the testimonies, the verdict. The galaxy finally understood. Earth was a death world. Humanity were death worlders. That truth was now undeniable. But more importantly, the galaxy was learning what humans had always known. The same conditions that break you can forge you into something stronger than you. It's imagined possible. A message arrived from Velmuth. Ambassador Webb, the Council has a proposal. Several frontier worlds face severe environmental challenges. Colonists are struggling. We wonder if humanity might offer insights. Would Earth send advisors? Marcus smiled and sent his reply. Earth is always willing to help. We have extensive experience turning hostile worlds into homes. Send the details. Outside his window, Earth turned slowly in space. The death world that had shaped a species crazy enough to look at impossible challenges and say not just that they could survive, but that they could thrive.